What's up? So I know you've heard the whole create more, consume less speech a million times from a million different people in a million different formats, but I feel like nobody ever tells you how to actually do that. So I want to tell you the most important things you actually need to hear in order to get started creatively, so that by the end of this video, you will actually be motivated enough to start on the thing you want to start on, whether it is art or music or fill in the blank. And I know that's a high bar to set, but I have a list of things that were the most important things that I needed to hear in order to sort of get that creative spark going, so I'm going to share them with you. The first most important thing is you absolutely will start by creating garbage. That is inevitable, and 99% of people are gonna start by creating trash. That is how it works. That is sort of everybody is in that situation at first. But the other side of that coin is that with time and with effort, you will improve. That is just as much a guarantee as it is guaranteed that you're going to start by being bad at whatever it is. Okay? And if you just accept both sides of that coin, that can sort of help you alleviate the fear of, but I hate it and it's trash and it sucks and everybody else is going to, that sort of stuff, right? I think we all kind of struggle with that at first, but if you can accept that, yes, with time and with effort, you will get better, no matter how untalented you feel, or no matter how bad at it you are gonna get better. That is how it works. That is a certainty of life there. Something else that I think, you might have heard before, but the irony of this. Alright, so you do not need good gear. You do not need expensive gear. You can start with whatever you have on hand for virtually any creative pursuit, okay? Even if it's something where you do need to, like, buy a guitar, for example, you can buy the cheapest guitar available, and you can still learn the basics with it. And the irony here is that a lot of people say that, but then have, like, their Amazon affiliate links in the description and that sort of stuff, so, like, they're saying one thing and communicating a different thing entirely, and that sort of like plagues the creative side of YouTube. But anyways, that aside, you absolutely do not need expensive gear, and honestly, in some sense, it's a blessing in disguise to not have expensive gear when you're just starting. So, for example, right, like with photography, you have a phone. You can start taking pictures with your phone, no matter how bad your phone camera is. And the blessing in disguise is that you will actually learn the principles of photography with your phone camera without having to worry about, all of the finer control of a real physical camera. And, the most important principles of photography are things like composition and how lighting works and how colors play off of each other. That sort of stuff, yes, you could learn that with a expensive camera, but you're gonna be focused on the finer control of the camera, whereas with a phone, especially a, bad camera on your phone, you have this sort of box to start in that's going to allow you to learn those really important concepts at first. Something that I know a lot of us really struggle with creatively is inspiration or creative block of some sort, whether it is writer's block or artist's block, or I don't know what you would call it for music, but like musical block? I don't know, whatever. But that is sort of the eternal struggle. And I have a few tricks, I guess, that I sort of use to kind of cut through that. The first thing is I always try to take inspiration from other pieces of media. So, for example, if I'm working on music, I try to take inspiration from a series of photos or a series of paintings that sort of evoke a certain mood, and then I can kind of translate that into music. And I will spend a fair amount of time, like, looking for that series of photos or that series of paintings that actually is sort of speaking to me. And that's sort of like kind of a trick to get your brain in a different sense of emotion, and then you can kind of translate that back to the area that you're actually focusing on. And I would imagine it works in reverse too, right? Like if you're painting, you could probably find some musical album and artist that evokes a certain emotion that you can then use to translate into sort of like the creative gears turning in your brain for the painting, right? Something else that I've tried to do in recent years is keep a running list of ideas in a physical notebook, like literally writing down ideas. And that way, when I have that, like, best of idea of all time at, like, 3 a.m., I can write it down, and when I inevitably go to work on something, like, the next day or the next week, and I feel like I have no ideas, I can go reference that list of ideas and flesh out an idea or pull from one of those ideas. I also like to, at the end of a working session, write down the next, 3 items, for example, that I have to work on the next time around that I'm going to be starting on, whether it's music or photography or whatever. So that's actually going to keep you from having to waste like 20 or 30 minutes to kind of lock into the zone, because you're just going to have something to immediately start on and immediately remind you where you left off as well. Especially if you are working on it sporadically, like you can only work on it once a week or something like that, because obviously we all have lives. We don't have, infinite time to dedicate to music or art or whatever. So that's, having a sort of to-do list to start with is really helpful in locking you in and then making sure you're focused on the thing you need to be focused on. Something else that I think is worth remembering that I still have to remind myself of a lot is that even time that is wasted is not truly wasted. As long as you are actually working on the subject at hand, you are still learning something, even if it doesn't feel like it. Even if it feels like, I worked on this thing for an hour and now I'm just gonna scrap everything I did because it sucked. As much as that happens, and it happens to all of us and it happens a lot, that work that you're putting in is still gonna be useful down the line. And what I've started trying to frame it as is, when I do eventually have some accomplished thing that I've finished, all of the failed attempts, all of the wasted time that I spent trying to essentially work on that thing but spinning my wheels and just not creating anything, that wasted time is a part of that end product, that finished product that I eventually get to. It was necessary in order for me to eventually get to that finished product. So it's worth sort of trying to untrain your brain from beating yourself up over, wasting time or, sitting staring at a canvas for an hour. Physically or metaphorically, apply that to your given discipline, right? And, something I want to leave you with, is that there's always a million reasons why you can't do something. There's always going to be, you just don't have enough time, or it's too hard, or I'll never be good at it. All of those sorts of reasons, you can come up with way more reasons why not to do something than reasons to do something. Okay, so let this video be a reason to go do the thing you want to do. There is infinite resources available on the internet. You can learn virtually whatever you would like for free. You can literally go to the YouTube search bar right now and type in whatever you want to learn about, and you can probably find some 10 or 20 hour course taking you from 0 to 100 in that subject, okay? The internet is a vast collection of resources that will teach you whatever you need to know for your given discipline. So you want to learn guitar? Go to eBay right now and buy the cheapest guitar available, okay? So you want to learn to draw? Literally pull out a pen and a paper and start drawing, okay? You can do it. You can learn whatever you want to learn. That's about it. I will see you next time. Peace.